Welcome and bienvenidos to Cultural Capacity, a podcast sponsored by Educator Aid Incorporated, where our team is committed to supporting individuals and organizations on their journey of self-aware leadership, emotional wellness, and development of effective cross-cultural communications. Let's get ready to explore the following topics together by biting into them with little pieces that go really deep to examine ourselves. Topics like bias, culture, cultural psychology, cultural neuroscience, diversity, equity, inclusion, and racial equity. Our episodes are all 10 minutes or less and intended to serve as introspective tools for you as the individual leader or the teams that you're leading. Be sure to check out the links in the podcast description where you can sign up for our free quarterly subscription, Better Community, as well as tap in and submit your questions via the voice message button. Let's get ready to learn together. In this episode, we want to talk and touch on just a bit the energetics of power. We cannot talk about eradicating racism and a systemic racism that stems from institutionalized as well as systematic racist structures unless we talk about power. So, I want to boil it down to a bite sized piece today for you to consider when you're presenting, when you're leading professional learning for your teams, or when you're involved in them in some way, shape, or form. Um, and it's something that I struggle with myself. I have a strong personality. I can be a very direct person. And part of my journey in leadership, because we are all on our own journey, is to continue to refine how do I create safety for every person in the room when I am facilitating. And my plight for this is because regardless of if I need to name the truth or properly name a specific action or statement that perhaps a participant in a professional development holds. For example, if there's an overt microaggression, or even not overt, right? But a microaggression, and I'm able to see that, identify it, and name it, or ask questions about the response, that can feel ouchy, for lack of a better way of saying it, for a participant. Now, does that mean that the intention is ever to make somebody feel guilt or shame? Absolutely not. However, we need to be willing and able with each other as humans in the human experience to name what we are seeing, what we are hearing, to name our emotions and how we are feeling, and properly communicate and convey those to our colleagues, to our loved ones, to our friends, and even to those who maybe we clash a bit with. And maybe we don't understand as deeply as others that we are close to. So, the reason I bring this up is because, yes, I am often struggling with these things and grappling with these concepts myself. Um, and I want to be honest and transparent and vulnerable. And I know that because I do have a personality that's rooted in being driven by beliefs, with my work with the process communication model. You can learn more at the educatoraid.com website if you're interested. But in my work with that, understanding my base personality is actually someone who communicates through beliefs. And that doesn't necessarily mean that all beliefs are true, including my own. It doesn't mean that they line up with what the truth of something is, right? So beliefs are a really tricky concept, actually. But they inform so much of who we are and how we behave and why we choose to communicate the ways that we do and the content that we choose to either share openly or edit. Right? We often are editing versions of ourselves in different spaces. We are editing or holding back certain pieces of who we are. And I'm not a fan of doing that, but I also know that runs the risk of perhaps I come across too strongly for people. So, one of the things I wanted to discuss first about to bring it tangibly is when you are examining what you've put together, for example, for a professional learning session or a training workshop that you are doing, you want to consider what beliefs may be present in the room and how you're going to continually ask questions and get curious with the participants to learn more about them. And prior to all of that, when you examine your objectives of the particular workshop, training session, staff meeting, whatever you're doing with other people, you should first start by doing an internal audit of, for example, if a topic is engaging your team in collaboration. Well, do an internal audit of yourself first. Ask yourself, what are my beliefs around collaboration? What do I really think about collaboration? What are the opinions that I deeply hold or the feelings that I get when I hear the word collaboration? I know that's a really broad topic, but often those are some of the topics that might come up in any staff meeting at with any team in the world, right? Regardless of your sector. So, I put that out there. Do an audit first of where you find yourself, because here's where the energetic principles come in, and they have this powerful intersection with power. And I say powerful because sometimes we don't realize our own power. When you walk into a space and how you carry yourself, the climate and the environmental conditions that you cultivate as a person who might be providing training or leading a workshop or professional learning session, or perhaps you're leading a staff meeting, that energy will be latched onto. And typically it will either be resisted or it will be embraced. And what we constantly have to do as leaders is to attempt to bring out what's not being said through inquiry, through an innovative approach to inquiry. And what I mean by that is getting curious about the thoughts in the room and what's really happening, allowing for that shared leadership to come out, that shared accountability, that shared voice to come out by posing the proper questions. If we don't, we run the risk of influencing heavily either buy-in or resistance by dictating the energy of the conversation. Example, going back to the collaboration example, if I innately and secretly believe, oh, well, this is stupid. This is just something that, my organization said we had to talk about this week with our division. So that's why I'm talking about it. Well, if that is truly your own belief about collaboration and collaborative practices with teams, that energy will be carried into the meeting whether you like it or not. Our subconscious drives so much of what we do every single day without us even being aware of it. So I put that out there as just a very simple example of why it's important to do a quick audit of where we find ourselves with a concept, because if not, we will walk into a space and automatically create a power dynamic of us versus them, meaning you're already going to divide the room between those who either have buy-in and engagement or are encouraged by something, or you're going to have resistance to it automatically, versus letting that room of people and voices weigh in and come up with something together as to why. So maybe how you choose to start that meeting, instead of saying, well, today I am going to lead us in a conversation about collaboration. Instead of that, maybe you begin by asking something like, what do you think of when you hear the word collaboration? And gather what people think of. What do they think of? And get them talking about what that incites, what that concept incites. Then, as a person facilitating, you will understand what are the different narratives within the room and how do I navigate those narratives to get us all rowing the boat in the same direction, so to speak, with that particular topic, concept, or thing that you are choosing to introduce. Thanks so much. Take care, and let's learn together and get curiously compassionate. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself today and tuning in to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. We're glad you're here. If you found value in this episode, be sure to share out with your social networks. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review on Apple. You know, all the things. Finally, don't forget to take advantage of our free quarterly subscription that is in our podcast description. The link is right there. It's called Better Community, and we would love to have you join us there too. Until next time, take care.